Hello and welcome to Strategic Gaming. My name is Mac Taylor, and with me today I have two people you're used to seeing. First, we covered the BB2 finale last night. It's Chris Wilkerson. Did you get any sleep, Chris?
I actually did. I overslept my alarm clock, sadly.
And we barely get this girl on this podcast, but when we do, I love her so much. She's got the biggest heart in the universe. It's Kristen Taylor. How you doing, Kristen?
I'm good. I'm so excited.
And big news here. We got from Big Brother 2. He was known for fighting to get that toaster. He was known for not being nominated until the final five. He got fifth place. It's Bill Bunky Miller. How are you, Bunky?
Hello, I am so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Hello, guys.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get down to it, so we can have Bunky talk as much as possible because I'm sure they're all tired of my voice by now. Um, so let's start at the beginning, Bunky. Why reality television?
Oh, interesting. But first of all, let me say it's so nice to have still have fans. We're in 2019 and it's 18 years later, and I never dreamed in my wildest dreams that people would even remember me or even care to talk to me. So thank you so much. It really warms my heart. So why reality TV? At the time in 2000 is when Big Brother started and Survivor started, and my husband at the time, Greg, and I were watching the first season, and I was just fascinated. I mean, he's the one that introduced me to the shows. I remember him telling me about there's this Survivor show, and they like take these people and put them on an island, and then the last one to survive gets $1 million, and I'm like, wait, they die? What happens? I was so naive. I didn't know what was going on. And then when it came time for Big Brother 2 applicants, he said, "Hey, Big Brother is taking applications for Big Brother 2." And I said, "Oh, I can't wait to see who they choose." And he said, "They'll choose you." And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "You should audition for Big Brother 2." And I'm like, "You should stop smoking crack because they would never put me on Big Brother." He's like, "Yeah, yeah, they would." And I'm like, "Okay, first of all, first season, they didn't have a Big Brother, or they didn't have a gay person." See, I'm nervous. They didn't have a gay person. And then second of all, if they do put a gay person on Big Brother 2, they're not going to put me. I'm 36 years old. I don't have six pack abs. I'm not drop dead gorgeous, and I'm just not entertaining." And he's like, "Do it, do it, do it." And he wouldn't shut up. I mean, day after day, he's like, "Did you do your application? Did you make your videotape?" And so I finally, just to shut him up, I filled out the application, did the videotape, and sent it in, and the rest is history.
And we're so glad that you did that because I couldn't imagine anybody else in that role on Big Brother 2. Uh,
Thank you.
so basically, what was the casting process like
Oh,
going through all the ropes?
that's a loaded question. How much time do you have? Okay, so I filled out the application. Let me think. So 2000, you have to remember in 2000 there was no YouTube or Twitter or Instagram or even Facebook. There's Craigslist. So I printed the application, hand wrote it, mailed it in the mail, and then got our VCR videotape recorder and recorded. I think we got 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes, but they were very strict about that. So then I was splicing it together and then mailed that in the mail. And then I got a call. I don't know how much longer, maybe like a month or two, maybe a month later, I got a call, and I was at work, and they're like, and at the time, I think I was still going by Bill, and they're like, "This is so and so from Big Brother," and I'm like, "Yeah, right. This is a joke. Who is this?" He's like, "No, it's this is Neil. I'm a casting director for Big Brother." I'm like, "I don't believe you." And he's like, "What? How can I convince you?" I said, "Give me your phone number and I'll call you back." So he gave me his number. I called him back, and he's like, I think he said, "Our House Productions. This is Neil." And I'm like, "Okay, I guess this really is Big Brother." And so we laughed, and he talked to me for a few minutes. And basically, you got a phone interview. And then at that time, he decides whether or not he wants to meet you in person. And so I'm pretty sure at the end of the conversation, he said, "I'm going to call you back, and you are now a semifinalist. So he called me back and he set up a time and date, and he's like, okay, you're in Charlotte. He's like, the closest we are coming, because they're going to like 9 cities. And he said, the closest we're coming is Atlanta. Can you get to Atlanta? I'm like, yeah, tell me when. And so I want to say that maybe it was a Friday. And so Greg and I decided to make a 4-day weekend drive down to Atlanta from Charlotte. It's about 5 hours down to Hot Atlanta. And I just thought, well, this is great. I will be able to brag that I was a semifinalist for Big Brother. I mean, that's as far as it's going to go, I'm sure, but at least I can, that's a major accomplishment for me. And so we went down to Atlanta, found the hotel that was being held, and I followed the instructions. And I went to the front desk and I said, I need directions to the Flamingo room. And they said, I need to see your ID. And I showed them my ID. And they said, you're early. You're 2 hours early. Come back. I go, well, I know. It's just I want to make sure I know where the room is and everything because I don't want to be late. And they're like, come back in 2 hours and we'll give you directions. I'm like, okay. So we go and we have lunch and we just, hang out. And then I come back 2 hours later and like to see the directions to the Flamingo room. And they're like, I need to see your ID. And I'm show them the ID again. They pull out something from a drawer and they say, go to the 5th floor, turn left, and go into the oak room or something like that. And I'm like, no, I need the Flamingo room. And they're like, go upstairs to the 5th floor, turn left, and go into the oak room. You'll get instructions there. I'm like, okay. So I go up there. I go to the oak room. There is no Flamingo room. That was a code phrase to let them know that I was a part of Big Brother because it's all. Is that me or you? Who's beeping? Oh, sorry.
Okay, your picture went away for a second. So, you're back. Okay.
Sorry. So there is no Flamingo room. It was a code phrase. So I go into the oak room and about 50 people end up arriving. He had said that there were going to be about 50 semifinalists. And of course, they had a handler in there. He gave us instructions, check in, and then just sit down and wait. And so I talked to almost every person in that room because I'm like, one of these people are going to make it on Big Brother, and I'm going to watch the show and I'll be like, I talked to her. I knew she was going to make it. So, I just wanted to be able to brag that I met someone that before they were on Big Brother. And so, as it turns out, the handler they're all spies, meaning they make note of everything you do and you say, and they report it back, which I did not realize that. Every person that you come in contact with is giving information to the producers and casting directors about your behavior. And so then I was the very last one, which I had said to Neil that I didn't want to be rushed. And so he's like, fine, I'll make you last. And so I'll give you as much time as you need. They said, okay, great. So I sat there all day, literally all day. And so then they called me in, and it's just a hotel room that I go into, and it's dark because there were just some spotlights set up for the camera. And as soon as I walked in, Neil said, can you do me a favor? Can you take your shirt off? And I'm like, what kind of audition is this? He's like, well, you showed your hairy back on your audition tape, and I just want to make sure that is, you really are that hairy. And I'm like, okay. So I take it off, and he's like, wow, you are very hairy. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, would you shave it for the show? And I'm like, I don't want to. Do I have to? And he's like, no, you don't have to. Not at all. So, okay. So then we did the interview, and the interview lasted about 45 minutes. And he said, I'm going to ask you everything. He goes, I'm going to make you angry. I'm going to make you happy. I'm going to make you sad. But I just want to see all your emotions, and I want to see what your triggers are. I said, okay, great. And I do remember at one point he had asked me, I get emotional just thinking about this. I haven't thought about this interview in a long time, but he asked me about something I had mentioned, a sad thing that had happened to me recently that I put on the application answering one of the questions. And I had been a camp counselor for this young man, Jason, who ended up becoming a camp counselor with me a few years later at my advisement. And so he and I were camp counselors together, and we became good friends, and we stayed in contact with each other throughout the years. And about 3 months prior to having that interview with Big Brother, he was in the Marines, and I had just visited him because he was stationed in Cherry Point, I think, North Carolina. I visited him and his wife. And then about 3 months before I was talking to Big Brother, he was practicing flying the Harrier, and it crashed, and he died at impact. So, like now, I got emotional during that because Jason was such a sweet kid and he was 27 years old and his wife was 3 months pregnant and he died. And so I told him that story and I was so embarrassed because I was crying and he had tissues and he's like, no, no, it's fine. You're all good. And I'm like, you probably think I'm some weirdo or some freak or whatever. And he's like, no, it's fine. And so we talked about a few more things and we finished up and then I remember he wanted to meet my husband Greg, and I said he's down in the truck, and he's like, "Can you call him to have him come in?" And so we met in the lobby, and I remember him saying, "This is your husband? This is the guy you married?" He's like, "That's not who I would have picked as your significant other spouse." And I'm like, "That's interesting." I don't know what he meant by that, but I just remember that reaction. So then I said, "Neil, what happens next?" He goes, "Well," he's like, "I've talked to 50 people here in this area, this region. I go back to California and I pitch one or two people who I think should be on Big Brother." And I'm like, "Are you going to pitch me?" He's like, "Bunky, what do you think?" I'm like, "I have no idea. I don't know who you've talked to. There were a lot of great people in that room." And he said, "I am giving away secrets here. I hope that surely this wouldn't get me in trouble." But he said, "Don't tell anybody this." And God, I hope Neil's not still in the business. And he opened his notebook and he turned to a page and he had written in big letters, Bunky, Bunky is the BB2 gay guy. And so he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to pitch you as the gay guy for Big Brother 2." And I literally fell to the floor, grabbed him around the leg, and thanked him so much. He's like, "Bunky, get off the floor." And so then he went back to LA. I went back to North Carolina, waited for a few more weeks. And then I got a call. Trying to remember the timing, but I got a call that I was now a finalist. So there's semifinalists. There were probably 500 of us. Finalists, there were 50 of us, and everything's top secret, as you know. So he said, "We're going to fly you out to LA for either 1 to 7 days, depending on how you do in the interviewing process." And so my brother-in-law, Greg's brother, was getting married, and I was supposed to be like decorating for the reception, and I couldn't. And we had to lie and say that my mother was in the hospital, and I had to go to Florida when in fact I really went to California. This is all a big secret. And so we went out to California, and I interviewed out there. I actually was out there for a week. And that's a whole bunch of other stories that I remember that a lot of things happened during that week and a lot of the people that I saw there. And I remember seeing Hard Body Hardy, as my nickname was for him. And I remember seeing Nicole, thinking, "What a bitch." And you just start observing these people, and that they are potential house guests because they have a handler, and the handler always has a headset. Do you see? And you're not allowed to talk to anyone. The only person you can talk to is someone that's related to Big Brother, someone who's associated with Big Brother. You can't talk to the housekeeper. You can't talk to anybody in the elevator. You can only talk to Big Brother people. They're very strict about that. So then I did that for a week. And then they did a lot of filming. I remember a lot of filming. And I got a good feeling from it. And at the very end of the week, they put the guys in a van, and how many of us? There were 9 guys in a van and 9 women in a van, and they drove us to Television City, I think it's called, the CBS Radford lot, where they filmed The Price is Right, and that's where Les Moonves, the former president of CBS, was located, and we each had interviews with him and about 20 people on his staff. And in the van, wish I could remember. In the van, I know was Kent. I know, obviously, Kent, Boogie, Hardy, Justin. Isn't that sad? I can't remember who the other 3 are, but Fubu was one of the other 3. Who's Fubu? Fubu was this big white guy, probably 6'3", I've learned later, from Texas, a comedian who dated black guys. And so he was in the van, and I picked up on the fact that he was gay, and I'm like, that's my competition. If I don't make it, that guy's going to make it. But we made it both to the very end, and he ended up becoming an alternate in case something had happened to me. And then I went home for about a week or two, and then I got a call, and they said that I made it as an alternate. and that they were going to send some CBS people out to film me just in case they needed to put me on the show at the last minute. And I'm like, well, that's a bummer that I'm an alternate. And then I got a couple of clues. They said, pack your bags for 3 months. And I'm like, but I'm an alternate. They're like, yeah, but we want to make it look realistic. So just act as if you were going to be on the show, pack your bags for 3 months. And we're going to send a couple of producers from California out there too, just to make sure that they film it correctly. I'm like, okay. And of course, that was all a lie. I had made it. I wasn't an alternate, but they wanted to get my reaction on film. So then they came out and they filmed, and then they're like, okay, you got 2 hours. You can make some confidential phone calls to family members, to your boss at work, and tell them that you're going to be gone for anywhere from 1 to 12 weeks. And we're leaving in 2 hours for the airport. And we drove to the airport, and I didn't even get to sit with the two CBS guys because they, I guess, booked the flights at the last minute. And I literally sat in coach in a center seat and was not allowed to talk to anyone. That's what I remember.
All right, that is a crazy process to go through, and I always love hearing the casting stories. Kristen, I'm gonna let you do the next question because I know Bunky was your first draft pick when we did the BB2 draft picks. Everybody was trying to get Bunky as the pick, but you got him. So yeah, ask him a question right here.
So wait a minute, it's Kristen?
Yes.
Hey, Kristen. So you picked me as you thought that I would win Big Brother?
Yes.
Oh, I love you. Thank you.
Oh my God.
You're so sweet.
You're so welcome. I'm gonna die.
I'm dying too.
Okay, so I have like one kind of big question that I conjured up. So this was back in early 2000s, and I remember during the first part of the show, you were having some trouble. You were really nervous about like coming out to the cast members because you didn't know how they would react.
Right.
So if you were to go on the show today, do you think it would be very different? Would it still be like the same kind of going through that process, or would you feel more comfortable about it?
Oh, I would totally feel comfortable. If I was going on today, 2019, we've made some progress in almost 20 years as far as people's understanding and views of people who are attracted to same gender. And I would have had all the previous seasons to see how people react to having a gay person in the house. And so it wouldn't be an issue. And right off the bat, they were just like, I would have said, hey, I'm Bunky, I'm from North Carolina, been married to my husband, Greg, for 12 years, blah, blah, blah. It would have been a non-issue. And it's a story that I believe CBS wanted, and they wanted that story between me and Kent. Not particularly that story. That story surprised them, I'm sure, us getting along. But it wouldn't even be a topic today, and I don't think it typically is a topic today.
No, yeah, usually they cast the most flamboyant gay person they can nowadays. Nowadays, it's all about like JC from last season. That was very. They wanted you to know who that was.
Hashtag stalker.
But from a casting standpoint, a gay Spanish and midget, like that's the perfect, like, of course they're going to cast that person.
Yeah, exactly. A little person who looks like a bodybuilder. That is, I think, Hispanic and gay. Oh yeah, that's all good stuff. That's great TV. That's a no-brainer.
So on to the next question. This comes from Jada, who could not be on the panel today. Is who did you enjoy living with the most? Like, who is the easiest person to get along with, live with in the house?
You would probably think Cheryl, but when you live with someone for 24 hours a day, even the little slings, things get on your nerves, and I did not realize until after the fact that I got on Will's nerves when I would say thank you, because if I had known that, I would have said it a lot more often, just to piss him off. You would think it was Cheryl, but there were things about Cheryl that annoyed me. I mean, I love a Southern drawl and everything, but she's like, yeah, and she's like, I think I'm the MILF and everything. And I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, we get it. And she wanted to be young and cool. And I was just like, okay, you're getting on my nerves. Who was easy to live with? That's a tough question because we were all obnoxious in our own special way. Oh my gosh. Maybe Autumn. I think Autumn was probably the only real chill person. There was just we were all wanting to be in the limelight, and we were just all just dying to be the stars of the show and be the most popular kid in high school. And then we all had our own quirks, and like Nicole, just everything had to be clean, and she was a control freak about so many things, and I'm a control freak, and there was no room for me to be a control freak. And so that was my biggest thing. I was like, I'm just trying to get along with people. I just want people to enjoy living with me 24 hours a day. But even I do recall learning afterwards that, okay, so let me back up. I have body issues. I've always had body issues ever since high school, probably. And so it was difficult for me to take my shirt off, but I thought, I'm going to be living on camera for 3 months. I got to take my shirt off eventually. And it wasn't so much of the hairiness, but it's just being overweight, because I've always struggled with my weight, even to this day. And I just remember I didn't pack a bathrobe, and because I live with my husband, I don't even think I owned a bathrobe, and I just walk around in my underwear. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to try to be myself. And so I got up the first morning, and I'm like, got to go to the bathroom, and I'm like, I'm not searching for my shorts. I'm just going to walk to the bathroom in my underwear, because we're like living in a frat house together, and so it's just the 12 of us. And so I walked to the bathroom, and eventually I took a shower and put clothes on. And that threw Monica for a loop, apparently. I think if there was an episode probably where or I heard her once say, I can't believe Bunky just walked through there in his underwear, didn't put no drawers on or anything. And sorry, but yeah. So to answer your question, I ramble a lot. To answer your question, Autumn. Autumn was probably the easiest to live with.
Surprising answer.
Who did you guys think would be easy to live with? And I'll tell you why they weren't.
Chris, you want to say who you think is easy to live with?
I mean, well, we already have the easiest person to live with on our podcast right now in Bunky. I mean, Bunky, you're one of my favorite characters. I hope you know that.
Thank you.
I personally, I don't want Bunky to take offense to this, but in some ways I did like Chilltown.
Do you want to live with them? Do you want to watch them on TV, or do you want to live with them?
I would not really want to live with Will, but at least Boogie has a fun side. But I still don't think he would have been the most fun to live with. I think Kent, because of his colorful background, even though he is incredibly grumpy, just the way he grew up, different than most of the people in the house, I felt like it gave him more of an interesting personality.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bunky, we'll go with he picked Boogie. Why was it hard to live with Boogie?
He was disgusting. He was nasty. He literally, I have this pet peeve about people who don't put their toothbrush in the toothbrush holder. He would just throw it in a drawer or throw it anywhere and then stick it in his mouth. And I've stuck a lot of things in my mouth, but I'm not sticking the toothbrush that's been in a drawer in my mouth. And then he would act like he's brushing his teeth, but he would not have any toothpaste on it, okay? He had crusty shit on the back of his ears, okay? He did not have good hygiene. And then he was, he's always talking like this, and I'm a rapper. And I'm like, no, you're not Eminem, okay? And so he wanted to be the coolest guy. He was the first one to be the head of household, and then they just went to his head, and he was just such an egomaniac. and he and Will were just dominating everything. And I literally remember going into the diary room saying, they're ruining this experience for me. This is nothing than what I thought it was going to be like, and I'm not having fun.
Okay, Kristen, who would you want to live with in the house?
Well, like Chris, obviously Bunky is first choice, but I would say probably like I had to like refresh and like look through the cast list because there were some people early on that didn't seem too bad. But I would say probably like maybe Monica. She never like really did anything that seemed bothersome.
Okay, Bunky, the rebuttal.
Yeah, Monica was not that bad. It was to live with. She was pretty easy going to live with for the most part. Although there was that one episode where she just went ballistic on me one morning, and when Kent stood up for me, so she got a little psychotic at times. But we all did. And it was difficult though to be on her team for a couple of reasons. She didn't win a lot of competition, so you couldn't rely on her to win. And then she talked in riddles, and so you never knew exactly where she stood. And you're like, are you with me or are you not with me? It was that made it difficult. Yeah, and then like she would be upset because I went to bed and left my cup sitting by the pool, and I didn't put my cup in the sink or in the dishwasher. So she could be annoyed by little things that you did or didn't do. Everyone's hard to live with.
I think if I had to live with somebody in the house, and maybe this is a terrible choice, I would probably go Cheryl.
Yeah.
Tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, just that southern accent and her just trying to be charming all the time. And I do know that she liked the young men. And so she was like right up there trying to flirt with them and stuff, you know. And then she would get drunk at night at times. Of course, everybody was drunk. And then she just sealed her fate with me when you know, I believe it's a choice to be gay. You don't really. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, you got to go then, because I can't live with someone who thinks I chose to be gay. Bye-bye, Felicia.
All right, on to the next question. Bunky, if you had a choice of the season, who was your ideal person to sit next to at the end of the game?
I did want to sit next to Monica. In the beginning, it was probably Autumn. She's the first one I came out to. She's the one that I bonded with in the beginning. And eventually it would have been okay with Cheryl. But it was Monica, because I know that the money would have had the most impact on her life. And so I was really, really hoping that Monica could win and would win. And I felt guilty all along because I was doing well financially. Greg and I were doing well financially. And so I didn't need the money as bad as she did. And I would like to think, I think the frame of mind that I was in, for me, it wasn't about the money. It was truly just about being on TV and being, you know, popular and having fans. And that's really what I wanted. So I wanted to be on TV as long as possible. And so if I had made it to the end, I truly believe that I would have asked everyone to vote for Monica, because that would have probably have brought me more joy, seeing how it affected her life, than it would have brought me more joy than winning $500,000.
Okay, Chris, I'm going to let you ask a question. You've been sitting here very patiently, being very. Go right ahead, Chris.
Yes. I sadly would like to go into a very deep question. Bunky, from the second your character was introduced into the house, I really connected with the person that you were. And like, I've been made fun of a lot because we come from a very like country and not as progressive town. And because of some of the things I enjoy, a lot of people like to make fun of me. And assume that I'm gay because I'm more feminine than most guys. And the fact to see you on the show and being more manly than the heterosexual men on the show, I mean, it made me a lot more comfortable with the person that I was. And I would like to know, like, if you have had other people come up to you and say that you help them through certain times like this, if that really makes all the time you spent in the Big Brother house with people who weren't as nice as you, does that make it worth it?
Absolutely. And first of all, thank you for sharing. These are the moments that are so special to me, and you make it all worthwhile. So thank you for being so brave and sharing your story with me. And I'm so sorry that you were bullied. Um, but yeah, it's really cool when people share their stories with me, and I've had some fans throughout the years share stories. And I remember there was this kid that wrote to me, and he said when he was 13, he was sitting on the couch and he was watching with his parents, and he saw how they reacted positively toward me. So he said he got up the courage during a commercial just to turn to them and come out to them. And they kicked him out of the house. And no, I'm kidding. um, so he said it was a really freeing moment that he had with his parents. And I'm just so glad that I was able to have a positive influence. I mean, that is so rewarding to me. That means so much to me. Um, and I'm very grateful to CBS for giving me that opportunity and for taking a chance on someone like me. Because I don't fit a stereotype, and I'm just myself. And I try to be true as I can to being me. And I want to say that you are perfect just the way you are, and you don't need change for anybody. And so I'm proud of you for being here, man.
Thank you. Your time on the show really made me feel that just watching you interact in the Big Brother house, and the person you are is the person I want to be, and I want to be that nice person that everybody loves, and that's you.
Thank you. You're so sweet. Thank you. Um, yeah, but I mean, I will say that CBS was very kind to show almost always show the positive side of me. It was very difficult living in a house for close to 3 months. I was there 62 days. And we all have hard days. We all have down times, and we all have rough days when we're just not feeling it. And I was extremely emotional in the house, and I regret. It took a lot of abuse, especially from Hardy. He was constantly yelling at me. He has or had anger issues, and he was taking them out on me. And it eventually just got to me. And I do appreciate him working out with me and helping me with my body. And I can remember once he was frustrated, and he's like, let's go eat lunch and then do our ab workout. And I'm like, I can't do abs after I have a full stomach. And he's like, well, I'm hungry, I'm gonna go eat. I'm like, fine. So I'm outside doing my crunches, and he opens the door and he yells, Bunky, it said we're going to do crunches after we eat. And I was just like, I'm going to do my crunches now. And I just yelled at him, and he closed the door. And I just said to myself, and of course your microphone is on, I just said, leave me alone, you freaking closet case. And I'm not proud of that. I was just frustrated. And that was just a very ugly side of me. It was something that I had been feeling all along. And so there are times when I am not proud of, of my behavior, but I try to treat people with kindness and respect. And it's really difficult when they don't give you that give you that in return. But I don't know. Just it's hard. it's hard, and it's hard when people aren't kind to you. But you know, just try to be understanding. Just try to understand that they're hurting from something. I mean, I remember doing a show, my Bunky Mania tour, doing a show in North Carolina, in Charlotte, in my hometown. I think it was at a Dave and Buster's that I got to perform, and I had spent like $100 to have a laminated poster made up, and I set it on an art easel, and they had an entrance from the mall into Dave and Buster's, and so I put the sign out there about come in and see my show, and had my picture on it, headshot of me and stuff. And then when I came out after the show to pick up my sign, someone had taken a permanent marker and wrote "fag" on my forehead with permanent marker. So that was a little discouraging. And I will say, it was 2001. A couple years prior to that, Matthew Shepard had been killed, beaten to death. And so a few times when I was on stage in public after Big Brother, I wondered, I worried there could just take one crazy person, one hateful person to shoot me. But I tried not to worry about that, and I just did it anyway. I thought, well, if it happens, it happens, But there was never an issue. But it did cross my mind a few times when I go on stage in public to see, you never know, be one really hateful person out there. Okay, next question. Who wants to talk about sex?
I was about to say, I almost feel bad about directing this in another direction. That was a beautiful thing, Chris. I really do appreciate you being so honest and open. The next question is, and you got a kind of a nice segue into this. What was life like after Big Brother? How did what? I mean, we're still talking about it now, like you said. It's almost 20 years later. We're still talking about BB2. So how did it affect your life after the house? Positives, negatives? Just what was it like?
So I'll be totally honest with you. I was hoping it would be a lot bigger. For example, when Greg and I came home from the finale, I remember at the airport coming off the plane, and there were just like a couple of my neighbors with signs and balloons, and maybe a person from CBS with a camera, but it was not a big deal, me coming home. So that was kind of anticlimactic. And then I heard and read that the mayor of the little town outside of Charlotte that I lived in, Harrisburg, North Carolina, the mayor had come out speaking against me because I didn't represent the traditional values of their community. So he was not a fan. He was not a Bunky fan. So I was really, to be honest, disappointed that it wasn't a bigger deal. It was a big deal the first season of Big Brother. I remember they showed George on the streets of New York, and they're doing something, they're filming something, an interview or something, and people were like screaming, "Oh my God, it's George from Big Brother!" And I'm like, "Oh, that'd be so awesome. That'd be so cool." But I didn't have anything like that. And I do recall, though, Greg and I got back from the airport at night. We pull into the driveway, and a car pulls up at the end of the driveway, and 3 or 4 women get out of the car, and they're like, "Bunky?" And I'm like, "Yes." They're like, "Oh my God, we found you." And I'm like, "Who are you?" And they're like, "Well, we live in Kentucky, and we heard that you lived in North Carolina, and so we just wanted to meet you." So they found me somehow. They found the house that I live in from Kentucky, and they had a banner, and they had balloons and flowers, and so stood out in the park or in the driveway and talked to them, and they filmed me and stuff, and we took pictures and for like a half an hour, and so then they left, and so Greg and I went in the house, we ordered pizza, and about, I don't know, 20 minutes later, the doorbell rings. I'm like, that's really fast for pizza. And I open the door and it's the women again. And they said they were looking at their recording and it was too dark outside. And so they asked if they could come into our house to film it in the light. And so I left them. And then they stayed for like an hour and they just didn't want to leave. And so I was being polite, but eventually got them to leave. And then Greg was like, never again, do not ever let fans in our house because we can't get them to leave. I remember being at Target once. Think I was shopping for deodorant, and a guy comes up and he's like, "Hey, ain't you Bunky from Big Brother?" And I'm like, "Yeah. Did you enjoy the show?" "Oh, I ain't never watched it." And I said, "Then how did you recognize me?" "Oh, I remember seeing you cry on the commercials all the time." I'm like, okay, that's how they promoted the show, by showing Bunky cry, and you recognize me just from the commercials. Alrighty then. There was a woman that I met her at the store, chatted with her, and then she wanted to take a picture. At the time, our phones did not have cameras on them, and so she didn't have a camera. So Greg and I went shopping in the store. She tracked me down. She had bought a disposable camera to get her picture taken with me. So then she took a picture with me, and then she asked if I would come down the street to see her mother, who is homebound and suffering from emphysema. And I was like, I can't do that. I have groceries and the ice cream's going to melt. She's like, well, then can you talk to her on the phone? And I'm like, oh, sure. Yeah, I'll talk to her. So she gets her on the phone and I'm like, hey, it's Bunky. And she's like, who is this? I said, Bunky. She's like, oh, what's up, Bunky? And I'm like, I don't know. How are you? And she's like, good. I'm just playing poker with the boys. Yeah, go ahead. You just, yeah, right there. Okay. So what's going on, Bunky? I'm like, she did not care to talk to me a bit, because she was playing poker with the boys.
Like you would know what that situation was when she told you.
Yes, you would think. I've had someone invite me to Nebraska to their yard sale it was a block yard sale that they were having in their mobile home park. That if I would come and make an appearance, it would improve their sales.
That is an interesting offer.
Had to decline. They couldn't provide travel. It's okay to laugh.
Yeah, I've listened to a lot of people talk about their after Big Brother, and it's like, man, some people pick the absolute wrong times to come up and talk to someone about their appearance on television or something. Like you said, I have ice cream in here. You're going to like take like that's
Yeah.
Next question.
I really don't mind. I mean, if I'm eating at a restaurant, I don't mind. I think the biggest thing is just if people always stand there and talk for 15 minutes and I am trying to eat a meal, that's a little excessive. But I mean, I see people that I would love to get a picture taken with all the time, and so I try not to interrupt, but at the same time, I try to be patient and I try to be respectful of their time. So I think people, if they can just kind of remember that, to be respectful, please don't interrupt, and then just make it quick. I had a woman say, this was years later when we had cameras on our phones. She's like, can I get a picture with you? And I'm like, sure. And she's like, my camera doesn't work. Can you take it with yours and then just email it or text it to me? Okay. And then she had my number. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do that again.
All right. So next question is of the cast of the people you were stuck in there with for so long, who did you keep in touch with? Who did you never talk to again? Or was everybody kind of in touch? Kind of what was that like?
They're way too cool for me. Most of them are way too cool for me. Like Hardy, too cool for me. Nicole, I remember, I don't know, maybe it was 6 months later, emailing her. She emailed me something. And I just said, hey, just want to say congratulations on second place. And great strategy, getting Hardy to do all the dirty work and get him to win the head of households so that people would be angry at him and not you. I said, that it was a great strategy. Wish I had thought of that, blah, blah, blah. And she was like denying all of it. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, girl, the game is over. Okay. He came in second, give it up. And so she was like all offended that I was just congratulating her on her strategy. And it was just, I'm like, okay, never mind. Cheryl and I never really spoke that much for whatever reason. Definitely not Shannon. She wanted nothing to do with me. Boogie and Will hate my guts for whatever reason. They did, I think it was Will's brother. Don't remember. Somebody associated with those two. I got a phone message on my answering machine. Boy, takes you back, doesn't it? On my answering machine from the Federal Trade Commission or the FBI saying that they're doing an investigation because because I'm trying to sell body parts on eBay, I think it was. Uh, but what happened was Nicole cut Will's hair, and I said to him, "Can I keep your hair clippings to auction them off for charity?" And he was like, "Sure, go ahead. If you think anybody's going to want my hair clippings?" And of course, they did want his hair clippings, and they did donate the money to charity. So that was the body parts, and as it turns out, it wasn't the Federal Trade Commission, it wasn't the FBI, it was like Will's brother impersonating an official, which is a crime. So they harassed me as much as they could. And then Hardy never really had much interest in associating with me, which none of that really surprises me. Justin, he's never reached out to me. I wouldn't mind talking to him and seeing him. I don't know a lot about him, but he's definitely blackballed from CBS and from Big Brother. It's almost as if he never existed. Autumn a few times, but most of the time with Autumn online, it just got to where she was still struggling with the game and struggling with how it all went down. And just it got draining to me after a while, and I didn't want to talk about it anymore. And it was like, there's nothing we can do about it. And which I can understand. I mean, she was hoping to go farther in the game, but so I couldn't really keep in touch with her because it was the same thing over and over. And Monica, she and I make comments on each other's pictures, and I'm excited to see her. I saw her maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago at a charity fundraiser, and that was awesome. And I'm going to see her again this summer when I go to New York for Pride. It's actually the 50th anniversary of Stonewall, and it's World Pride in New York City. So I'm definitely going to make time to see Monica in New York. And then, so the person I kept in touch with the most was Kent. And we would talk a couple times a year on the phone and maybe a text message here and there and stuff. But I kept in touch with him, and it turned out that during the game, I wondered if he was just playing me and didn't want to seem like the bad guy for not being friends with me. So during the game, I wondered if he was faking it. But then afterwards, it was clear that he really did like me and really did want to have a friendship with me. And so he and I kept in touch. There's a story to that. If we have time to go into it, I will.
I mean, it's up to you. It's your time. You would say it.
We'll try to do breaks in between these stories because I'm probably running way too long. And if you don't end up making it 2 podcasts, you may have to just cut out some of these stories, and that's fine. Figured give you too much content than not enough. So Kent and I stayed in contact, and then in 2003, 2 years after Big Brother, I decided to move to California by myself, and so I decided to drive across the United States. I had never done that before, and so Kent said, "Come stop in Knoxville. My wife and my daughters want to see you." And I said, "Okay, let me figure out what hotel is near your house." And he's like, "You're not going to stay at a hotel. You're going to stay at my house. We have a spare bedroom." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, great." And so I went, and I was probably there for like 5 days and had a wonderful visit with him. We went everywhere. It was awesome. And he would say like, Bunky, let's go to Walmart and visit some of our fans. He would say, let's visit the unwashed masses. It was so bad. He was so bad. So I did that. It was a wonderful visit. Then I moved out to California. And then I was in California in 2003. And then in 2017, 14 years. 14 years went by. I had never gone back to North Carolina. And I still had friends in North Carolina and still coworkers and stuff that I kept in touch with occasionally. And so I kept thinking, when am I going to go back to North Carolina? So then it all just kind of came together. I had a former employee, a young man from India that I had hired. He ended up moving to North Carolina, and he and his wife were saying, please come visit us. We would love to see you again. And then the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus, which is, I think, probably the largest gay men's chorus in the United States, they canceled their international tour and instead they decided to tour the South. This is 2017, a year after Trump was elected. And so they wanted to show support to all of the LGBTQ people in the South. So Selma, Alabama, Charlotte, North Carolina, they're doing concerts in all these cities, including Knoxville, Tennessee. So I call up Kent and I'm like, hey, Kent, I said, if I come to Knoxville, Tennessee, will you and your wife and daughters be my guest? And will you go to a gay men's chorus concert, a San Francisco gay men's chorus concert in Knoxville? He's like, oh God, Bunky, I don't want to hear a bunch of fags sing. I was like, I was stunned. And then he starts laughing. He's like, of course I'll go with you. I'm like, you will? Okay, awesome. So I went. I went to Charlotte and I went to Knoxville, and once again stayed with Kent and his family. And he took me everywhere. He took me to his country club where it's the good old boys. The only gay person there was the bartender, and he was flaming gay. And they would tease him, and he would tease them, and they had a good old time together, which I guess was cool. I mean, in any other case, it could have been offensive the way they would, but it was almost like being a part of a sitcom. And I can remember Kent saying, Bunky, let's go up to the pro shop, the gift shop. I go, why? And he's like, I can get you a hat. You need a hat. And I'm tired of looking at that bald head. And so I remember picking out a hat and what do you call it? Titleist, the golf ball manufacturer. So I got that hat and I wore that hat the whole time that I was with him. And then we went to the concert, the whole family, and they even brought the Oakland, California Gospel Church Choir. And it was like a revival, and it was beautiful. And they sang some amazing songs. And there were times where there were some really, sad spiritual songs. And I would sit there and just cry because I'm sitting next to Kent at this gay men's chorus concert, 14 years later. And I'd look over and he would have a tear drop, he's trying to act like he's not crying. And then they would sing some song where they had tambourines and people were jumping up in the aisles, and I jumped up in the aisle and started dancing, and I could not get Kent to jump up in the aisle and dance with me, but he just smiled and nodded his head as I was dancing like a fool. But I was just so excited and celebrating that, I was experiencing this with Kent, and it was just the most beautiful thing. And I think back and I think, Kent and I built a bridge, and he came a lot farther across that bridge than I did. And I was so grateful for his friendship. And that was in October. And then 2 months later is when he died of his heart attack. And I'm so grateful that I got to see him. It's not a coincidence that I went back after 14 years.
Well, what a lovely experience to have there,
So lucky. So lucky, because in the beginning, I did not like that old man. He was an old fart, and I would call him old fart. He called me, you big homo. And eventually, we just kind of grew on each other, and we always joked and said that we should make a sitcom called Sweet and Sour. He was the sour and I was the sweet one. And I would be the lawyer living in the building with him, and he'd be the florist. He's the straight one and I'm the gay one. Copyrighted.
I would watch that show.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, Kristen, I'm gonna let you again, since this is like your fangirldom coming to a head. Why don't you go ahead asking her question?
Oh man, it's hard to like follow up with all these. Well, first of all, I kind of want to veer just a smidgen, uh, and kind of go off of like what Chris was saying, like just seeing you do this show and express yourself so freely was really an inspiration for me. And it just like drives me to be like open with myself and others and just be the best that I can be. And it's just I just really appreciated seeing that. And I think that nowadays in media, and it's becoming more normalized, I think that's amazing, because I would have loved to see that type of thing growing up. And I mean, that's what people like you did. You know, you showed people that it was okay to be that way and that you were good people and that you were just like everybody else. And it was just, I don't know, I just had to get that out there.
Thank you. That's so sweet of you. Thank you. I didn't know what to do, to be honest with you. I didn't know how to act. I've all my life been told how to be. And I called my parents during that 2 hours that I had before I got on the plane. And I told them I was going to be on Big Brother. And the first season, they interviewed the parents. And I asked if they would like to be interviewed. And they said, absolutely not. And that they forbid me from going on the show. And I had to tell my dad, I'm 36 years old. And I'm a proud gay man. And I'm going to go on the show because I beat out a bunch of other people. And I'm going to do this. And he hung up on me. And they did not talk to me for 12 years. It was a good 12 years. It was no drama. There was no guilt. There was no judging during those 12 years. Just silence. But eventually we came around. But I felt a lot of pressure. Because I'm just one person. I'm not representing the gay community. I'm not representing the LGBTQ community. I can't. But I am just one person. And I loved my husband dearly. And I did not want to embarrass him. And I did not want to embarrass my mother and father, even though they were ashamed of me. And I didn't want to embarrass my sisters. As a matter of fact, I have one sister who's very private, and she asked me to not tell CBS that she existed because she didn't want to be found. And I respected that. It had nothing really to do with me. She's just a very private person. And so she doesn't understand why I would want to be in the limelight and why I would want my life on display. She does not understand that, but I am adopted at birth, so we don't share the same DNA, obviously. So I felt a lot of pressure, and I just tried to be true and be honest. And that's not a good strategy, to be honest, and try to win that game. So I had horrible strategy. But I think I was probably more concerned about life after Big Brother. And I was very self-conscious. And I will say that I did modify my behavior because I didn't want the country to turn against me. For example, I overthink a lot of things, and I literally used to use aerosol deodorant, and that is when I switched to stick deodorant because I thought I don't want people like campaigning against me that I'm ruining the ozone layer, and how dare I, do that. Literally, when I brush my teeth, I run the water, which is a waste of water. When I was on Big Brother, I always made sure I turned the water off. So I was thinking about every little thing, and it will drive you crazy because I was judging every thing that I did, and so at the same time still trying to be true and to myself. And I do have a good heart, and I don't know if it's part of my DNA or if it's because of my upbringing. My other sister, Sharon, who I love dearly, I'm going to love all my siblings, but my sister Sharon is very special to me. She's a couple years older than me, and she was also adopted from a different set of parents. She was adopted at birth. She was put up for adoption because her mother had been doing drugs during pregnancy, and so my sister Sharon was born with brain damage, and so she's mentally challenged, and so she is very special to me, and she, of course, was bullied and called names on the school bus, and I would always stand up for her. And so I've always stood up for the underdog. And I don't like to see anybody be bullied or be teased. So that's why I always say, you are perfect just the way you are, and you don't need to change.
And I mean, just you saying that, like, I don't even know you, I guess, and it's just really reassuring, because when you come from a place where you're not always supported and you don't always get that, it's so important, and it feels so nice to just hear it sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I really appreciate that, because when you said it the first time to Chris, I was just it wasn't even directed at me, and I was I felt it so much. Good. And so I just thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I'm just so fortunate and so thankful for all of you. And so you guys make it worthwhile. You guys make it worthwhile for me. This is worth more than $500,000. It really brings a lot of joy in my life, and just I can feel the love from you guys, and I appreciate that, because be honest with you, I don't have a lot of love in my life, and so the love from the fans is truly, truly appreciated. So thank you.
Oh, all right. I'm gonna go to another question.
Is this how all your freaking podcasts go?
I couldn't handle that if that was the case. As these two know, I'll explain this to you, Bunky. We did this thing called the social experiment, where we did Big Brother in a day at my house. So we had 14 people get together, and we played all these games. And I was the Will type. I was the no emotion asshole. And now I'm sitting here on the internet crying. It's not doing good for my image, Kristen.
Uh-oh. You better be careful.
Oh. But no, really, guys, this interview has gone way better than I thought it could have ever gone. We talk about games, but this is so much more.
Yeah.
But I will shift it back to Big Brother we only got a little bit of time left, because I know you have things to attend to in your day. Basically, if you could go back, if you could play again, if they said, Bunky, we're putting you in a house, it'll be all new contestants, and you're basically Paul from 19. You're doing this, only returning player. What would you do? You got power veto, which you've never had a factor in the game before. You have slop. There's no PB&J. There's slop, cold showers, and bad bets. How does but more of all, you've matured so much as a person and become the best version of yourself. So how does the Bunky of today play Big Brother now?
Oh, how would I play today? First of all, whenever you go back, I think you have to do some damage control, as these people might know you or think they know you. And so there could be a target on your back. So I would totally downplay. I'm like, oh, I was a horrible player. I really don't know how to play this game. I'm like, I have no strategy. I would really play that up so that they're not threatened. You don't want them to be threatened. So I would make sure that they're not threatened by me. And it's I mean, at 36 I was still one of the older people, and now I'm 54, and so I definitely go in as Uncle Bunky. I love it when people call me Uncle Bunky, and just try to be that fun, silly, non-threatening uncle that people can confide in. And I think I would not focus so much on the money. And I think when you don't focus on the money, Will didn't focus on the money. He doesn't need the money. He's going to be a doctor. um, and even though now he just removes tattoos and does cosmetic surgery, I think. Or I would just not focus on the money and just focus on having a good time. I think that creates a lot less pressure, and I think typically I would probably be more successful. And I think the biggest thing is to not get emotionally involved. That makes it really, really difficult. But I'm just a very emotional person. And so, like, I had a hard time voting out Kristen, obviously. I felt horrible and couldn't even say the words I vote to evict Krista. I've just had a stroke, apparently. Is Krista or Kristen? Krista.
Kristen's in the panel. Krista was on the show.
Thank you. It sucks to get old. Don't get emotionally involved. And like, I would get upset if I lost a competition, and it's like, that doesn't do any good. I'm a really sore loser. And so no one wants to live with me, when I'm grumpy about losing. So don't get, emotional throughout the time. I think you want to be someone enjoyable, but that also works against you, because I literally had people saying to me, I don't want to stand next to you at the end, because you've made friends with everybody and they're all going to obviously vote for you. So then you get evicted. I try to lay low at first. If you watch Big Brother Celebrity, I think it was Jonathan. I think he came on way too strong, and got booted out really early. So I try to lay low. I think that's what was last season? What was her name? The woman that won?
Casey.
The boxer, football. Casey? Yeah. I think it seemed like she laid low in the beginning. So that would be my approach.
All right. I'll do one quick question, one quickie, and then we'll finish up, and this thing has gone fantastic. I can't find words. It's fitting. Kristen, ask the last question. I think I want you to do it.
I don't even know what to ask.
Let everybody ask one more question, please.
Yeah, definitely. Because, like, I don't need that pressure. I guess my question is, like, I guess not would you do it again, but, like, do you think that if you had the chance to go back, would you have still wanted to do the show, I guess? Like, are you overall happy with your life now and, like, the way it changed things, or would it... Yeah.
No, I'm very grateful. I'm glad that I did it. I wanted, when I was deciding to do it, and actually the night before, I thought, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can live in a house and be monitored 24 hours a day. I started to get cold feet, and I just thought, please let this be a positive experience. It was a positive experience, and so I'm happy that I did it. I had hoped that it would help me get into something like a bit part, a returning character on a sitcom. I moved to California and spent 12 years trying to make it in show business, and just could not make a living as a comedic actor or as a prostitute. So I had to go back to my office job. Ain't nobody paying for this, okay? Can't even give it away for free. Yeah, I was hoping that greater things would have come from it, but I'm grateful for the experience. And if you had a chance, would you go on a reality TV show? And if so, why?
Me? I probably would. I just think it would be fun. um, like Mac knows the way I play. Obviously with like the social experiment, I'm more of like I go to have fun and meet people. I don't really care about winning, but I also made it very close to the end that way.
Mm-hmm.
And like even if you watch all my little interview things we did, it was always just like, "Hey, how's the game going? What are you doing right now?" And I was like, "I'm just here."
Yeah.
And I think I would definitely do it. I would try more to win if it was like a big reality TV show, but at the end of the day, I think it's just like about the experience of doing it and like the time you have. So I would have fun. I would do it.
I will say that, Kristen, you undersold yourself as a player in that little game we did. You were fierce. She has a competitive streak. She was aggressive with the competitions, and she was like, I tried to get her to throw a comp to me, and it was like 20 minutes of me like, Kristen, just throw this comp to me. I swear you're safe. And she's like, I don't know. I can't trust you. I don't know. So, I had to say that.
Well, I've constantly been looking for the perfect partner for Amazing Race, and I haven't applied because I just haven't found the right mix of a person to balance me out. Because I mean, I just don't know that I'm entertaining enough, so I need to find a very entertaining person. But I would love to do Amazing Race, just because I'd love to travel the world and just. Of course, you don't see a lot of it, but still, I think it'd just be fun to try Amazing Race. What about Chris? What you thinking, Chris? What's your question?
Yes. When I started in strategic gaming, I was brought on. I was not prepared. I didn't know anything about Big Brother, and really, I didn't know a lot about the rest of the people that were there. I am the youngest person that does pretty much anything with Ben, and a lot of these people had a lot of time to get to know each other and have spent more time with each other than I've spent with them, and that gave me an idea of how you did that in the house. And I would actually like your advice on how to enter the house and get people to like you, and what you should show off about yourself and what you might want to keep hidden.
Yeah. My advice would be you have to keep in mind that you're playing two different games, or you're playing two different teams. You're playing against the people in the house, but you're also playing the producers because, let's face it, they're in the business of ratings. And so if you are entertaining, if you're giving the producers what they want for ratings and you're trending, they're going to make sure you stay on the show, and they're going to make sure that you win competitions or that people vote to keep you or don't vote to evict you. That's just the way it is. That's my belief. Um, so you have to play the producers, but then you have to play the other people. And my biggest thing is, I think, just don't be a threat. Is whatever people view as a threat, don't be a threat, and just trust a couple of people. And you don't even know if you can trust them. How do you know that you can trust them? How can you be sure that they are not having reliance with one other person and that they're lying to your face? And just keep in mind that anything that you tell one person, what if they told everybody in the house? And they could tell everybody in the house, and maybe they told them, and those people didn't tell you. And so don't always tell what you know. Like, I knew that Will was playing a mind game when he said, "Oh, we should all fast." I'm like, that's what a cult leader does. Okay. And I thought, I know what game you're doing. I know what you're playing. But there was no need for me to tell him that. And I didn't feel comfortable telling other people at the time that, because then I'm like, what if they go back and tell him? So just be careful with what information you share, and always have backup plans. Have a plan B and a plan C, and then don't give up until the very end. And as you've seen, even when you walk out those doors, it's not always over. You can there's always a possibility that you could go back in. So just keep on fighting and just don't give up. And if you're applying for these shows, keep applying for the shows and keep reapplying and don't give up, because Evil Dick, I think, applied maybe 6 times, and 4 of those times he was a finalist. And they kept saying, you know, we want you on the show, but we're just waiting for the right mix. And so he just never gave up. Jillian Larson, who does a wonderful shout out to realityrally.com or realityrally.org. Sorry, I should know. It's a breast or a cancer fundraiser. They're on their 8th year, I think, for that. She was on Survivor, and she applied for like 8 years to get on Survivor, and she auditioned like 8 years, and they finally put her on Survivor, and I think she was one of the oldest people on Survivor. So just don't give up.
And Chris, your game was that your downfall is you didn't talk to anybody. You came in, you're like, I'm here, and I was like, I'm gonna get that guy out, and that was my HOH. I'm so sorry, Chris.
Yeah, I came off competitive, and I was incredibly nervous, and I was even younger than I am now. I mean, I'm only 18 right now.
Oh, okay.
And I was younger when I started with everybody, and I was really nervous, and it was a time where I really cared about what people thought, and I didn't want them to really just not like me. But I also showed too much of a competitive edge in a lot of the competitions, because that was back when I played football, and I did all kinds of things in middle school and high school, and it didn't play well, but now I feel like I have a strategy.
Cool.
Yeah, that's when we created the hit list. Chris, you were number 2. We had the hit list of everybody we'd take out in the game, and besides Cole, we did every single person in order.
Well, that's kind of a compliment too, Chris, because as soon as they take you out, that means you're a threat. So they think that you might win, so they got to take you out.
And before my question, I will say Kristen and Bunky, you both were 5th place on the Kristen Strategic Gaming. She was 5th place.
Right on.
So my last question is, you told me when we did our connection test, you're like, wait till you see what I say to Dr. Will at the finale. And I watched it, and I totally forgot that you said the things that you did. And I just want to know what was going through your mind. Was there any backlash for it? Like, I loved it. I thought it was very well deserved on your end. You had kept quiet so long, and you were finally able to speak your mind. And I just wanted to tell me about that moment. That's my question.
Yeah, first of all, there was no backlash from it. Second of all, just as a reminder, it was a few days, maybe 2 weeks after September 11th, 2001. So after the attack, so that was still fresh in everyone's mind. And I remember when I was going back, I was in North Carolina, I was flying back for the finale, and Greg said, whatever you do not vote for that bitch Nicole, because he was so pissed that she had turned her back on her alliance. And so I was planning to, I think at the time I was planning to vote for Nicole to win. No, I was planning to vote for Will to win. And just through the things that I had learned and just his attitude, I just despised him so much. And I just thought, you're a horrible person. And so I had to speak my mind. And I remember filming my voting in the diary room, and thought that that's how it was going to go down. And that was, taped. And then after we all did that, because we were there for maybe 2 days before the finale doing different interviews and things. And then after that, then they're like, okay, change minds. We're actually going to have you vote live on the actual finale. And we're like, oh, okay. And they're like, but still say the same speech and everything. I'm like, oh, okay. And so I was just going to tell the truth. I was just like, I don't want Nicole to think that that I voted for her, but instead I was voting against Will, because I couldn't, in good conscience, I couldn't vote for Will to win when he said he wouldn't give any money to charity, and he talked to us like we were peasants. And I'm not going to give $500,000 to someone who speaks to me that way. And I wanted to let him know that his mind game didn't work on me. And I think he knew it, that it didn't work on me, because he voted to null my vote. So he knew that it wasn't working with me, which I that was bad gameplay on my part. I didn't do a good enough job thinking that he was fooling me. I wanted him to think that he was fooling me, that I was buying into. I mean, there were some lies that he had told that I totally believed. He said he was dyslexic. I believe that. I don't know why I believed it, but I believed it. I also want to tell you one thing really quickly. That you think CBS and Big Brother loves you because they say wonderful things to your face, but here's the brutal reality of it all. So I'm in North Carolina. I get a call from Big Brother, and they're like, "Okay, we're going to fly you guys back, and we need to book your flight on American Airlines." Blah blah blah. And I'm like, "Okay, if my plane is hijacked like those other planes, then and I die, is there an insurance policy?" They're like, "Oh yeah, $1 million," something like that. I said, "Okay, I need to see in writing that my husband Greg is going to get $1 million if I die because of this plane being hijacked." And like I said, it was right after September 11th. They're like, "We'll call you back." So they called me back about 12 hours later, and they said, "We're going to send a private jet to pick all of you guys up. You're not flying commercial." Because they realized, oh, if they die, then we can't have an end to the show. There's no one to vote. So we need these people alive. So how can we guarantee they'll be alive? We'll send a private jet, even though it's going to cost a lot of money, which they hated spending money. The soda that we drank in the house was generic soda. It wasn't Coke. It wasn't Pepsi. It was generic. They saved money on everything. It was season 2. So I get on the jet, and I think like there were a couple people already on the jet. I think they'd already gone to Florida and picked up Hardy. So Hardy was on the jet, and there were maybe like, I guess maybe 6 of us, 5 or 6 of us that were on that jet. And then they had a second jet that went to the other cities and picked up the other 5 people. Or, it was less than that, obviously. My math is wrong. And so they flew us there. We filmed, and then to fly back, I'm like, "Where's the jet?" And they're like, "Oh, you're going back on American Airlines." You could go back in commercial, and if it gets hijacked, well, too bad.
All right. Well, I guess with that, we sadly are going to start taking this interview to a close. I just want to say, Bunky, thank you so much for coming on and doing this. You took time out of your day to talk to 3 nobodies on the internet. And absolutely,
you are somebody. You are bodies. I love you, and it has been my pleasure. So thank you so much for being a fan, and thank you for caring and asking me to come be on your podcast. It's been a pleasure.
All right. And anytime that you ever want to come back, you just let us know. We'll make time for you.
I would love to. Just send me a message.